Hello, friends. Welcome back. We are O for Dying Out Loud, your podcast where we talk about life and death and everything in between. And I am your host, your magical life midwife, Angie. And joining me as ever is my beloved best friend, Laura Shaw, the Divine Death Doula. How are you, my friend?
I'm amazing. Thank you. How about you?
I'm doing well, doing very well.
Good.
It's been several weeks because it's summer and,
Summer.
work and stuff and travel and all kinds of
Mhm.
stuff. So we haven't chatted in a while. And I got to thinking prior to our call today, I'm like, what are we going to talk about? Because the whole point of this podcast is to make it a safe space to talk about all things death and dying.
Mhm.
I also wanted it to be a forum of talking about how does this conversation help us to live better
Yeah.
and talking up through that lens. And so I kind of feel like talking about that. And what's prompted me, my dear, is I'm reading this book. Just started this book. It's called The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. It's a fictional book. And I'll just tell you the little premise of the story is that everywhere around the world, every single person 22 years and older in this book, one morning wakes up to find a mysterious little box on their front step or right outside their tent or wherever they're staying. And inside the box is a string. And the string is associated with how much time you have left here on this planet. So it's a fictional story, obviously, and they kind of go through, obviously the mass panic that people feel. What's the box? Nobody opened the box. We don't know what's in the box. We got to have the scientists and the, politicians and, everybody weigh in on this before we do anything. And it's a really, so far, I'm a third of the way in the book. It's so interesting to me, my friend, that it talks about each chapter is from the lens of a different character.
Okay.
And how they're navigating it. Did they choose to open the box or not? Did
Ooh, that's a great thought.
right? Like, I mean, so we'll come back to that because that would be my first question. Are you going to open the box or not?
Yeah.
And when you open the box, particularly if you're opening the box with your partner or your family,
Mm-hmm.
how do you navigate that when there's different lengths of string?
Right.
Some of them significantly different. And
Oh,
how does that impact your choices then? And so it's been really riveting to me and thought-provoking because there's that little cliche that we always say, like, oh, live today like it's your last, and it's a great sentiment, but I don't think really people think about it like that.
right. Right.
And this book really kind of puts it in your face, like, what would you do?
And what would you do? Would
So
you
I'm
open
going
the
to
box?
ask you,
Oh, you're gonna
what
ask me.
would,
Okay.
yeah, I am going to ask you, I'm going to
Okay.
make this real raw and vulnerable. If you had a box that
Mhm.
showed up on your doorstep and you didn't open it right away, but then you found out, yep, we have confirmed, the scientists have confirmed in the box is a string and it relates to the length of the years you have left on this planet. Would you open the box?
No,
No,
I would not.
really? That was
Yeah.
a hard no. Like you
Yeah.
didn't even think about that. Tell me why.
Yeah. So I would not open the box, and which might not be a popular opinion. Um, I never want to live my life. So, first of all, if I have a really long string, I wouldn't want to think, oh, well, that's fine. Look at all this time I have left. Um, because that might make me waste it more. But
Mm,
also, I don't want to know if mine is the same length as my children's or my golden girls or my friends, because I don't want to think about, oh my gosh, are we going to die together? Is there going to be some horrible act? Like, there are just too
right.
many things, I think. So for me, I am not that, um, it would make me curious. I would ruminate.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. But at the end of the day, I'm also one of those people who likes to test things. So
Oh,
I would
so
be
you're gonna
like,
wait, let's see what all the other gerbils in the
right,
cage do first,
yes.
right?
So
Yeah,
like, what if we all had the same length? Well, that just means we don't have to travel with each other. Will we still die at the same time? Or will we not, like, do I have to walk away from my family so that we're not together? So, all of these
yeah,
things,
yeah,
I would try to cheat it.
right.
So I think I would just take it away from myself. Just the whole thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But you brought up a good question though.
Mhm.
So you wouldn't open the box, and
Mhm.
I think that's a brilliant choice, right? But you said yourself, you'd ruminate about it. How
Mhm.
long would you ruminate about it? And would that be detrimental to your health? Do you know what I mean? Like if you're watching
Yeah.
everybody else do
So,
their life based on whatever.
mhm. So I think, so for me, I used to belong to an anxiety support group. Don't worry about these things I'm saying to you. Uh,
We
so,
all
um,
could benefit from being in that
right.
group.
So it was a great group. It was
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
So what I will say is that my former therapist, she fired me. She didn't fire me. She just she graduated me because I'm so mentally stable. So there is an end for
I
all
did
of
not
you.
mean to laugh that loud and hard
It's
about that,
true.
but
It's
it's
true.
no, I
Mhm.
yes, I believe you. I believe
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
That's awesome.
So she once said to me, and I mean, I haven't seen a therapist now for years. And
Mhm.
she once said to me, hey, someone's gonna be coming out of the office at the same time that you're supposed to come in, but I need you to wait in your car. No, she needed me to wait in a different office down the hallway and promise not to look. And that's been, I don't know, 5, 7, 10 years. It was a long time ago. And I'm still curious about who it was. Now,
So,
I don't think about it all the time, but every once in a while I'll
right,
be like, I wonder who that was.
right, right.
So,
Oh,
yeah, so
interesting.
I will still think about it.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it
for a
won't
very long, I
dominate your
will think about it
thoughts.
until I die, probably.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
I respect that choice. I really do. And for, the people that, in the book have chosen not to do it, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I totally get that." Like I can see that it could cause so much anxiety and
Right.
worry. And
Mhm.
yet, let me just preface by say I don't know what I would do
Okay.
because there's a part of me
Mhm.
that thinks, well, if I knew exactly how much time I had left, that would help me prioritize what I wanted to do with the remainder of my life. Do you know what I
Sure.
mean?
I do.
Like, I mean, and I can hear somebody else, some big guru, Tony Robbins, something or other, but would tell me what, you don't need your box to know what you should just decide which priority is, what's your dream, go after that. But it's not quite that simple. We're human
Right.
beings, and
Mhm.
and so I think for me, I'd have to think about that quite hard because there is something to be said for you get that string and you go, okay, I've got, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 years left or less than that. It's like, okay, let's put some shit into motion, right?
Yeah.
Like what is the priority? So
Mhm.
then that just begs the question, then why am I not doing that
Right,
now?
why aren't you doing it now? Yeah. Uh,
Right.
So
And
what
do not get any crazy idea about mailing me a box with a string in it. I will, yeah, don't do that.
I would
Don't,
never do that to anybody, quite
thank
frankly.
you. Thank you.
Um, I think though that you make a really valid point. I was thinking about this today, so I love to watch shows about tiny homes
Oh, yes.
and people, living kind of this alternative in a yurt or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I'm watching this show, and this couple bought a van because they want to give their small children, they have 3 and a fourth on the way, I think. They want to give them this experience in their life, and they got this van.
Mhm.
And I'm like, yeah, this is great for them. And also, we all can't just get in a van and live our lives in a van because somebody still has to do the work. Like,
Right, right,
I have a house and I have kids and I need health insurance and my kids need health insurance. I mean, they're adults.
right. Right.
and things like that. So then I think, okay, well, so it's not realistic for me to do what they did because it doesn't,
Hmm.
not everybody can do that. Um, so then I start thinking about, okay, but what could I do
Right.
if I can't do that?
Right.
Because honestly, people, if you don't know me well, I would love to just be a free spirit on the road in a motor home, just tooling down the road, going from festival to festival. I don't know what I would do. I'd sell wares of some kind, probably, or I'd cook it. I have no idea what I would do, but this is all I would do. I would just travel. I could absolutely like be untethered. It would be amazing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
I
so
could
I
so
do
totally
think
see
about
you doing
that.
that.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course you can.
Yeah. I totally could see that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, so why aren't you doing that now?
Yeah, again, because of all those reasons, because I have a kid who is a type 1 diabetic and needs health insurance until she's 26 and too old to be on my health insurance. And,
Right.
there's just all these things. I have elderly, or they're not elderly. I shouldn't say that. My mom would murder me. I have parents in their 70s who I want to make sure that I get to experience, and I'm here for them. I have grandchildren that live here. And so, um, yeah, so I just make different choices, but I try to
Yeah.
live as close to that as I can, and probably every day closer to certain things, I get closer to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
Yeah.
about this all the time. I think about this all the time.
Yeah.
Like, what do I want this to be? What do I want my legacy to be?
Yeah.
What do I want to experience before? Because we've talked about this before. I'm
Mhm.
not afraid of dying. I'm
Right.
afraid of missing.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not afraid of dying either.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I certainly hope that I don't have to suffer, but I'm
Yeah,
not
for sure.
afraid of death in the afterlife. I'm not afraid of that at all. But like you, I am afraid of missing out, I got FOMO
Mhm.
and all that stuff, which is also, I think, where it's challenging for me right now because I sit there and go, well, you don't need a box, just prioritize what your dream is. And there's just too many shiny things out there for me.
Yeah.
Too many shiny things, and
Mhm.
bills still need to be paid.
Right.
And so it does. And I'm one of those people that, like, I absolutely hate the question, where do you see yourself in 5
Oh.
years? I'm like, I don't know where I'm going to be 5 days from now.
Mhm.
I don't know what mental state I'm going to be, and I know that seems a little free spirited.
Yeah.
Maybe it shows that I don't have goals or something like that. But I think I have hustled enough in my life. And knowing me and my Sagittarius moon, I'm a free spirit too. I know that I have evolved multiple times in this lifetime,
Mhm.
and I intend to continue to evolve.
Yeah.
I do not have a singular focus. I have themes. I know, no, 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 for without a doubt, that I am a teacher.
Right.
And that is my love and my passion, is to teach people things that have benefited me, things that I have learned, things that can help them, whatever wisdom I can impart upon people that would be even remotely helpful. I
Mhm.
love to teach, love to hold that space. So I know that that's part of it, but it kind of evolves. And then in terms of, because look, there's times where I would love to not be working. I would love to be in a little cabin in the woods,
Mhm.
and just live out my days communing with nature. But then you go, so I think everybody thinks about, oh, I'm going to get to retirement and I'm going to tool around the country and that kind of thing. But you know what? More often than not, people get to retirement and they struggle with that
Yep, for sure.
because A, what's my identity? Because now I don't know who I am without the job that I had or the
Right.
profession that
Right.
I had.
Mhm.
And then B, oh, sure, you could travel around. And if you have the funds and you could just spend years traveling, great. But at some point, I think that because we're vessels for the divine, I do feel like each of us has this little calling. Sometimes it's louder in others, but we have this desire to to be of impact, of service to the world. You know what I mean? Like there's something we want to be able to do. So
Mhm.
I just, because, and I know there's people out there that probably sit in their easy chair and that's their retirement. I know a few people in my life that are like that, and I just go, and that's okay if that's what they want to do. If they're living their best life and they're loving that, that's great. But I don't know that they think about that.
Right.
Like, I wonder sometimes, is that really fulfilling?
Hmm. Yeah,
And
it's like they're waiting. Okay, I've done all this hard work. Now I'm just waiting, waiting to
yeah,
die, waiting to, I don't know what, but
yeah,
waiting for something, waiting.
yeah, exactly. Waiting for something to happen instead of, and I think, to be fair, if you're tired, you know, you're just like, I don't feel like conquering the world or doing anything exciting. But all of that to circle back around and go, that's what I found was so compelling, that I'm finding so compelling about this book, is that it
Mhm.
opens up that conversation in a unique way of, what are you doing with this one precious life?
Right, with this one thing.
Right,
Um,
right.
so, uh, as you know, and I've talked about it before, my parents worked really hard every day. They're in their 70s now, and my dad is having a pretty significant surgery. And my mom, she's had both knees replaced. She's had foot surgery. She's just broken parts. So we tease her about
She's
it a
a
lot.
bionic woman. Yeah,
Yes. And so Jen and I, my golden girl, what we decided is that we didn't want to be in that position. Like we wanted to find this happy balance where, yeah, we can maintain bills, we can, live a life that is rich and fulfilling and secure, but
mhm,
also we want to make sure that we're doing all the things that we want to do now while we're young and can enjoy it. Like, first of all, the number of people I have known in my lifetime who get close to retirement and don't make it, or who get to retirement and something catastrophic happens at retirement. And for me, that the question became, why would I work this hard to save to enjoy it later if I'm not actually going to enjoy it?
right,
Like, I don't believe that's what life is for. I don't think that we
right,
just
right,
work and work and work on this hamster wheel. And then when we
right.
finally, save enough food in our
Mhm.
cheeks over the decades, then
Yes,
we can get off the wheel and just magically eat for the rest of our lives. And that's what it is.
right.
So, so we planned a ridiculous trip out of the country because it's something that I've always wanted to do. And we're already planning the next trip, and we try to take every year we try to take a trip with the grandchildren to take them somewhere, um, if they want to go with us, which is pretty fun, I think.
Yeah,
But so because having a big bank account to me might feel like failure a little bit. Like,
interesting.
right. Like, not that I can't have a big bank account, but I only want one if it's not to the detriment of the rest. Like, I am not just squirreling away money
Right,
for later.
right.
Um, because I want to have experiences and memories. And if that means
Mhm,
that I don't get a new car, or I don't get, whatever,
right,
whatever. Um,
right. I agree with you 100%. And of course, for our listeners, or if you, or listener, as the case may be, it's really, these are conversations we're opening up just to open the conversation. I mean,
right. Yeah.
you know, you choose, you be you, right? Like, we're
Mhm.
not advocating complete financial irresponsibility,
No.
we're advocating, what are your passion projects? What are your dreams?
Right.
Like, I have never been to Europe, and that is a bucket list item. And watching you and Jen go, and I just go, okay, I have a plan for other things right now, but that is coming up closer where I really need to get on it and want to plan for that. Does it mean that I might have less money in my retirement account? Yep. Does
Mhm.
it mean that I might work longer than 65? Yep. But you
Yeah,
know what? There's even studies out there that are saying that you don't have to retire.
right.
And it's interesting when you bring that up to people, their different responses, because some people are like, I remembered, listen to this, I had a health coaching client. This woman was in her 80s and still working for the same company she'd worked for many years, and she loved her work,
Of course she did.
absolutely loved it. And she was so sharp on the ball. She was just fantastic. Like at one point wanted to say, I think you need to coach me. I think this
I
got
need
this
you,
backwards,
right, I need
you
you.
know, but there is something to be said for the fact that just because you've reached 65 doesn't mean that you have to stop working. If you want to, great. If you have the means to do it, great.
Right,
But we have built it up to be this idea of it's this grand vacation. It's just a lifelong vacation. And it's really not. You talk to people who are in their retirement years, you talk to my mom and dad, it's things like, yeah, we replaced the water heater today and we got the boys came out and mowed the lawn, you know. I mean, they do their things, but they don't travel as much anymore.
right,
And so and certainly they've worked hard. I would not suggest that they want to go back to work or need to at all. I'm glad that
right.
they're home and relaxing, but I'm just saying that we have it in our heads. And here's another interesting statistic. I was doing some more of those Dow Janes lessons.
Yes, love them.
The percentage of people, I did the little kind of retirement calculator,
Mhm.
and the calculator kind of indicated how you rank with other Americans. Like some 64% of Americans do not have, like I have more in retirement than 64% of Americans.
Wow,
And I can tell you right now, it's not very much.
yeah, that's
So,
scary.
I mean, but is it? Do you know what I'm saying?
I
Like we
do.
built this up to be something like, oh, like I'll never forget this 25-year-old something something who met with me over my retirement account.
Mhm.
I could have been his mother. And he's sitting there telling me, well, you've got to put this much money a month into retirement because you're not going to have $1 million by the time you retire. And I'm going, you don't know that. You don't know that. You're just using this algorithm and
Right,
simple math. I could win the lottery. I could get a windfall. I could get a job that pays me twice as much. You don't know. And
right.
secondly, I mean, again, I'm not trying to, I recognize I have a lot of privilege. There are people out there, seniors who are struggling. Okay.
For
And I
sure.
get that. I absolutely get that. And we need to do better by them. My point is to say that there are other options.
Mhm.
There are other options, and some of those options are available for people, some are not, but we don't have to put ourselves in narrow, limited boxes about what we do with this length of string.
Right, right.
Have left.
I love the idea of this too, because something that doing doula work has really helped me with is considering what I'm waiting for.
Mhm.
So, and what I mean by that, like I have a tendency to be a workaholic. So like
Mhm.
during COVID, I never stopped working. My computer was at home. I had it set up in my bedroom for privacy because my golden girl also had to work from home. Um, so all I did was work. I would wake up and work. I would work until I'd stop to eat, and then I'd get back on the computer and I'd work until bed. And it was just this crazy time. And I think what that really did was between that and then finding my sanity again and doing really paying attention to doula work and the idea that really what am I getting from that?
Right.
Like what was the I got paid,
Hmm.
I earned money,
Right.
But honestly, I I had no fulfillment in that. Like,
Right.
and what I was, so what I tried to do, and I'm a work in progress, of course. But like this, for instance, this vacation that we took, it was the first time in my life, including when I had both of my children. I never took maternity leave. That wasn't even an option for me because I was poor and I had kids. And so again, privilege
Mhm.
is amazing. But the first time in my life, I have been in a position where I'm like, I'm taking 2 full weeks of vacation. I'm not checking in. I'm
Right.
not like my last vacation to Canada. I
Mhm.
literally am in the car. We had mobile service connected to the car that we drove so that
Mhm.
I could do work in the car.
Wow.
And I'm just like, no, I'm not doing that. Like that's
Right.
not,
Right.
I don't want that. I don't want that for me.
Right.
Um, you always hear about the happiest places in countries in the world, and they're,
Mhm.
like Sweden, I think is one of the happiest places.
Denmark.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
And one of the beautiful things is they talk about how much leave that people have. And it is really amazing how much more productive I feel when I actually just
Unplug.
take time. Yeah, like I take time for myself. I go do a garden. I've never, we've had garden boxes, but this year we've got a fairly big garden. I go do projects in the garage. I
Hmm.
go do things that I just never would have done before. And because I just realized that life is so much bigger than what my job is or what money I have or
Right. Right.
yeah. It's so it's interesting that you're reading this book because first of all I need to read it. But
Yes,
uh
you do.
I just there is a person, oh, let me see if I can find him, who did some research, and I'll tell you
Mhm.
who he was in a minute, but what he researched, he's a doctor, and what
Mhm.
he really started paying attention to is the four most common things that people say on their deathbed.
Oh,
Yeah. And
interesting.
I always tease people at work, my coworkers, I always say to them when they're like, they'll give me back their vacation time. Like, I took this time off, but I need to get this done, so I'm not gonna. And I always say to them, I promise you, nobody when they die says, I wish I would have spent another hour at work. Like,
Oh,
nobody
yeah.
says that.
Right.
Like,
Right.
that's not what they say. But so it's interesting if any of those folks
Mhm.
would feel differently if their string was short.
Right. Right. Because really, the reality is, it's all how you look at the length of that string.
Yeah, right.
Because we all have a short string
Mhm.
because it's going to end at some point,
Right.
right?
Yes.
It's just that we don't know what the actual day or year or how old we will be or none of that,
Hmm.
and yeah, so all of those things. And I think that, I've heard those things too. Nobody on their deathbed ever says that they wanted to work another hour. And I feel deeply that sense of, well, when it takes you forever to build up a week of vacation, let
Yes.
alone, and then you have to take some of that time to go to a dentist appointment or whatever, I get that there are real challenges in our culture,
Yes.
but that there's that we have to be careful not to give away our power. And I think that's part of what this book is really kind of trying to get us
Yeah.
to understand, is that whatever constraints you find yourself in, right? Financial, relational, emotional, physical, there is something that you have control over. And it's important to find that your ability to find joy in anything.
Right.
you know I think maybe I told you about this guy that I saw at this conference, Marcus Buckingham, and he wrote a book called Love at Work, and he talks about this concept of red threads. There's a string theory going on here, and he says really the red threads signify the things that bring you joy. And he said in all of his research, because he actually worked for Gallup and used to do all of this organizational personality type of Gallup Strengths Finders, right?
Right.
He said, you would think that the happiest people have like what 80-90% of their day is red thread activities. And he said that's not true.
Huh.
You start to see people have issues with burnout and mental health issues and happiness, unhappiness and that kind of thing. But if you can just maintain 30% of your day is spent on red threads, that is what predicts greatest resiliency,
Mm.
greatest mental resiliency, physical resiliency, is that. So it's that. And there, I think there was another book that wrote about 10% happier. We've got this idea in everything that we do in this culture that it's 0 or 100, nothing in between. And that disempowers us.
Right.
So all the people that tell me I can't do it because of this, and this. Well, that's not the right perspective. I get it, and I empathize with that completely. It feels awful when you're in that space. However, it's our work and our job to look at it from a different angle and say, but what can I control?
Right. What can I?
If I'm feeling crappy today and I had a really awful day at work,
Mhm.
what's a red thread that can feed me, that can bring me joy? Because here's the thing, things that can bring you joy. For me, it's singing, right? I don't do it
Yeah.
often enough. Why? Don't ask me. That's a dumb question and I haven't figured out the answer. Why don't you do the thing that you love? You know? So it's singing, it's reading, it's meditation, it's yoga. Meditation. They've shown that meditation, mindfulness exercises, lengthens the telomeres on your DNA. And essentially what that does is it lengthens your life. So if we can look at our strings or not look at our strings, but just know, hey, let's take a pause every once in a while and go, how am I feeling? Am I feeling fulfilled? Am I working too much? Am I not doing enough of the red thread things that bring me joy? What can I do differently and get myself back on track? Because just like taking a vacation, doing those red thread items, for me, it's going out to lunch with my girlfriends or going hiking and
Right.
finding mushrooms, or going to a music concert. When I'm able to, those are little mini vacations. Can we find a mini vacation?
Right.
What does that look like? So I'm going to pose a question to you. Let's shift perspective here, make it more practical. What are some things, Laura Shaw, that are mini vacations that you can give yourself?
I love gardening. Who knew? So I go out to the garden and talk to the plants every single day.
Really?
I
Oh
take
my
pictures
goodness.
of them. I make my mother look at it and yes, it's insane. Who knew that I was this person?
I just can imagine you going out there and going, oh, look at you, you carrot
Yes.
top, so big. Look at you
Oh,
grow.
look at the radishes. Yes, I'm out every day. I'm out there doing crazy things, talking to them. So that's a mini win for me. The other thing I love to do, I love to sing. I'm not a singer, and I certainly am not a performer. But what I love to do is sing jingles at people. So especially when they're not having a great day. So I like to bring joy at work. I like to sing songs and put people's names in songs, sometimes to
Give me an
opera.
example. I need to have an example of this.
Okay, it cannot carry a tune. Just so plug your ears,
Oh, yeah,
everybody.
you're fine. You're fine.
So I used to work with this lovely human named Erica Kubli, and she will appreciate this if she watches this because every day she would come in and we sat by each other and I'd go, Erica Kubli, she is the girl who sits next to me while I'm at work. Yes, she is. That's, by the way, that's supposed to be Eleanor Rigby.
Yes, I recognize it right away. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
I do this all the I'm one of
Never
those.
sang for me.
Well, that's because you sing. You sing
Ah,
like you raise a bar. that
Oh,
I can't
but
get
listen,
to.
there's performing and then there is dancing around the kitchen singing.
Yes,
Okay. So I
yes,
can appreciate that.
yeah,
That's
yes,
awesome. I
yes.
love it.
I literally sing songs when I came back from vacation, my entire team said, it was so quiet here. No one was singing. Nobody was
Oh,
singing.
oh. So you know what I love about that is that that brings you joy, but you know darn well that because they
Yes,
mentioned it, it brings them joy too.
it
Ah,
does. It
I
does. If
love
I'm
that.
not singing, yeah, yeah, I do it all the time. I sing in the bathroom at work, which I work for in a public location, let's just say. And
Yeah.
so oftentimes I will be surprised by the people who are in the bathroom when I realize I'm singing out loud.
That's hysterical.
Yes,
But
it's
that's a
me.
mini vacation for you.
Yeah, love it.
Okay.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
else?
Mhm.
What else?
I like to build things. I took all the old planter boxes from our raised bed gardens and turned them into a giant box and put hinged lids on them so that I can get my CSA delivery. Uh,
Oh, cool.
so I converted those. I like to sew. I don't know, like I find joy in birds. I'm like a crazy old lady. I love to watch birds. I just
Oh,
saw
I
a
love that.
hummingbird today. I have
Yeah.
new neighbors that are moving in today. They just actually, I didn't know they were moving in until right now. But at their house, the person who used to live there, he fell and eventually his family had to move him to a care facility. And so no one's lived there for quite some time now. And literally today, there was a hummingbird outside of his door and they're moving in today. So I take that as a really beautiful
Oh,
sign.
that is beautiful.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
I'm always feeding the birds, talking to the birds, talking to the crows.
Yes. Yes, of course you are.
Yeah.
I love that. I
Mhm.
love that.
Yeah, what do you
Sprinkling joy.
do?
That's a really good question.
Mm,
So the things that bring me joy,
yeah,
I love to cook.
you
I love
do.
to
Oh,
cook. I
so good.
I just love cooking. I love to experiment with new recipes. I love to cook for my friends because if I don't cook for my friends, then I end up eating it all. And that's my second love is eating. Um, love it. Somebody gave me rhubarb,
Oh,
and of course I had to make rhubarb strawberry crisp, and I ate it
good for
all
you.
by myself. It was delicious. So I love to cook. For me, it's not just about the food. It's like creating an artwork. I love to think about how's it gonna look, and I plate it. Even for myself, I will plate it in such a way that it looks like I was at a restaurant, and I sit at
Yeah,
my dining room table and I eat my delicious dinner. And so I love that. I love to sing, obviously. I don't do it as often as I used to, but that's I know the reason why, but that's a subject for a completely different
different
podcast episode.
podcast.
Um, I actually do love to garden as well, but I have not done any gardening this year because my deck is waiting to be restained. So it's kind of
Mhm.
in process. But I do have my basil.
Oh, look at him.
And I sniff on him all the time, and it brings me great joy. So
Oh,
I love having lots and lots of basil. So yes, once my deck is done, I will probably have a late season garden, but I do love that. I love, having fresh food and fresh herbs to cook with. I love to read a good book.
mhm.
Um, I do love to do yoga. I probably don't do it enough. I love to hike. Being out in nature is wonderful. Um, I love community. It's one of the reasons why I moved back here to Iowa is that I have my chosen family here. And
Right,
so the thing that feeds me the most is when I go to like Friday, I'm going out to see some friends who are in a band. They're playing at this winery. And inevitably, I know I will run into other people there that are
right.
all part of this, circle that we end up running into each other. And it just feels like this great big family. And, farmers markets or whatever, all of these little things, you always just run into people that and going out to lunch with friends or whatever. I just love that little community. I love my moon circles. I
We love
really,
you.
Yeah, thank you. So
Mhm.
yeah, but it's interesting because where I find that I struggle is in the day to day, like work
Okay.
day, right? The work week. Because yeah, if I'm on the weekend and I'm going out with some friends, that feels like a vacation. But when, the daily routine, Monday through Friday, yes, I get up and I do yoga and I do my meditation. I feel pretty good. But the moment I clock in, it just feels like I've got this spiritual narcolepsy, and now I have forgotten how to bring joy into my day. Because here's the
Interesting.
thing, I can let my work deplete me, or I can find ways to, where's the red thread?
Right.
Figuring out the
Just
red thread,
to stitch the thread into your day.
right? Or even just, I'm not good about, because I work remotely, I will sometimes, well, I got nothing better to do, so I'll just keep working, instead of like, you get paid to take an hour break,
Yeah.
go into the next room and open your book and read some more,
Yes.
or sit down with your guitar and play and sing for an hour. But for whatever reason, I've convinced myself that, well, I mean, that's not a lot of time to spend on that joyful thing. I'm just gonna go ahead and put this back into work. Like, what?
Mhm.
So I have to do a better job of creating even smaller mini vacations within my day, as opposed to just waiting to the weekend to do it.
Yes. I love this. I love that we start this conversation talking about would you open the box?
Mm-hmm.
When the truth is open the box or don't open the box. But really the bigger point is to find the things that bring you joy, even if you can't take a vacation or you can't, if finances are
Right,
too tight and you can't go out to eat or, whatever it is. Um,
right.
how do you live in a place of joy with whatever you have?
That's right. That's right. I
Yeah.
mean, and that is the big question, way to bring it full circle. And
Mhm.
I mean, I will continue to report back as I read through this book. And if you're at all interested, I'd love it, not to tell you what to do, but like if you were to get started on this book, then we could really make this a
Love it.
true book club kind of a thing. But I think that message is, if I had to foreshadow, I think that's going to be the crux of this book, is really about how do you make the decision, you know, to, figure out whether you want to look at the string or not. But
Right.
that's really not even the deepest question. The deepest question is, when was the last time you sat down and looked at your life and went, these are the things that are fulfilling, these are the things that are not fulfilling. And if I had a short amount of time to live, how would I live differently?
Right.
Like,
I do
would
this.
that change what you do?
Right.
Because I'm very lucky, knock on wood. I have really great health
Hmm.
right now. And so it's easy for me, with my privilege and my health, to take those things for granted.
Right.
And that's what we're saying. This book, I think, is really calling into question, like, don't take your life for granted.
Hmm.
Don't wait until you get the string and you find out that it's happening like very quickly.
Right.
Take your power back and craft your life where you can. Because here's what I do know, and I'll wrap this up with the spiritual truth around this, is that when we do the things that bring us joy, we vibrate from that joyful place. When we think about more positive things, and I'm not saying spiritual bypassing, I'm just saying that when we have a broader picture, the bigger picture, and we can see it from a more positive lens, that we are growing, we are evolving, we are learning, we are experiencing the joys, the highs, and the lows of life. And isn't that a beautiful thing? When we can live from that space
Hmm.
and make it more sacred, miraculous things happen in our lives.
Right.
Miraculous things. First, chiefly, is the fact that you have now jumped back into the driver's seat of your own life, because you're determining what's going to steer you today and what isn't. What's going to distract you today and what isn't, right? What am I going to choose today? I'm going to choose love. I'm going to choose joy. I'm going to, wherever I can. And so you've gotten your power back, but funny things happen in the universe. That's where synchronicities come in. That's where you get all of these magical things happening, because it's not because you're not, if you're sitting there going, well, my life is shit and nothing good is happening. There is a part of that is outside influences, but you still have control over some of that. Over 50% of that equation is yours.
Right.
And you might be very surprised to find out how many miracles can happen if you just focus on making your 50% your priority.
Right.
And what does that look like for you?
Mm.
So, juicy conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you for indulging me, and more to come on that. And listeners, if you are interested in joining the discussion,
Yeah.
I have no doubt that we'll be coming back to this, because as I read through it, I'll have perhaps more to say about it. Maybe Laura will too. The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich.
Yep. I'm writing down
Fabulous,
right
fabulous
now.
book so far, but it's not for the faint of heart. Listen, it's not for the faint of heart, because you're going to be witnessing this from the perspective of these characters, and it brings the full spectrum of the human experience into it.
Yeah, I love
So yeah, love it. Well, Laura, any last words of wisdom that you'd like to share?
that.
I
No.
put you on the spot. No,
Yeah, I
no, because you
literally,
didn't look in your box.
literally, just
Yeah.
every day, just find, even if it's the worst day, try to find one thing. No matter, like, I have lived through some pretty crazy traumas, and definitely I try, hindsight, I can go back and now I can look at them and say, okay, I was learning lessons. I just hope everyone has the opportunity to get to that space too, that they can look back at the worst and say, okay,
Yeah.
there's this one good thing of it, whatever little thing that is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That we're all on a healing path.
Mhm.
And that's what we're here to do. Heal, evolve, grow, love. That's what we're here to do. Well, thank you so much for engaging with me in this conversation. Thank you, listeners, for joining us. And we look forward to further discussion with you. Oh, for dying out loud, all things life, death, dying, and everything in between. Thank you so
Yay.
much, everybody.